Uzumaki is often referred to as the scariest manga of all time. So what better time to read it than the spooky season itself? I have only read about a handful of horror books, but I've never been truly scared from a book before. So the fact that this is the scariest manga of all time has me really excited. So let's see if it's really as scary as people say. But first I need to go buy a copy. So let's do that. The goods have been acquired and I have started reading Uzumaki. It's pretty much the second I got it, I went to the closest cafe and started reading. This is not a book to read in public. I started reading it and went, maybe I should go home and continue this. Don't really want someone seeing this over my shoulder and thinking, what is he reading? So very basic premise, this follows Kiri. She's a young girl who lives in Kurozucho. A small, fog-bound town on the coast of Japan is cursed. Now this book wastes no time with a setup. I thought this was going to be a very slow build, given that it's quite chunky. I think it's like 700 odd pages. So I just assumed we'd be building up to this more horror aspect. However, the first couple chapters are horrifying. It wastes no time to hit you with some horrific moments, which has me worried for what's coming up if this is the start. I've only read the first handful of chapters, but so far it's been very episodic in nature. There isn't as much of a through-line story other than this town is kind of being haunted by this strange spiral obsession that people seem to have. The structure feels very much like a TV show, so each chapter is kind of an episode within itself. It has an arc and usually some sort of resolution towards the end of it. We've been introduced to some other characters. We've met Kiri's parents, we've met her boyfriend Suichi and his parents, which is where all this obsession for the spiral started. One of the early panels in this was Suichi's dad staring at a snail, and because you know, even just from the cover, this obsession with spirals, you're just looking going, yeah, I can see that this is foreshadowing of some kind. I don't like this. I think that the art is absolutely stunning, especially when you get to the more horrific panels. Maybe stunning isn't the right word because they are really nasty looking drawings and very detailed horrific scenes. However, they're extremely effective in what Junji Ito wanted to achieve. This feeling of, oh. I will say another thing that the manga does really well is it has that shock horror value because you can just immediately see something by flipping the page, and then the whole page is a panel of this horrific moment that's happening in the story that's quite difficult to achieve with the written word, but it's so effective having that immediate just whoa. So far I'm really enjoying it. I've not been scared yet. It's quite unsettling and some of the scenes are horrific, but I have not been scared yet, so we'll see if it gets scarier as we go on. I'm planning on getting up to at least the 25% mark tonight, and I'll do another check-in after that. So wish me luck. Okay, I know how this is going to sound, but you saw in the footage, yesterday was glorious sunshine and blue skies, and then when I came home and I started reading Uzumaki, this weird shaped cloud cover came over. And I know how it sounds, it did look spirally, and I'm kind of weirded out. And then I got up today and it's overcast, raining, windy, just generally not very nice when yesterday was so sunny and nice. I know it's probably fluke, but it's weird. So last night I got up to about a third and I did some reading this morning, so I'm now about 50% of the way through Uzumaki. And that's partly because of the structure. With these sort of bite-sized mini arc chapters, you do just want to do, oh, just read another one. Oh, just read one more. Hello, Meg. I need to show you the cat. She's... Okay. I will say that the characters haven't fleshed out much, even at the halfway point. We do know a bit more about them and their life, but they're not particularly deep characters. They're very flat and simple in a way. However, I think it really works for this story. It draws the attention to this town, to this spiral mystery, and all these horror aspects. Kiri is just sort of the lens in which we are watching this story unfold, but the story is really about this town, Kurozucho, and this spiral mystery that is haunting this town and how it affects its inhabitants in different ways. However, why is no one calling experts in? Some horrific things are happening, and then they finish it, they just go, okay, well, that just happened, and then they move on like nothing happened. There's not much in the way of repercussions for some of these scenes. A lot of people die, a lot of horrific things happen that make no sense in real world terms, and people just kind of shake it off and go back to their normal lives. There's a sequence where Kiri is in a hospital, and this is one of the rare bits where it is kind of an arc that lasts more than one chapter, because there are several chapters where she's in this hospital, and she goes through some horrific stuff. There's some really weird ongoings happening, and then she just leaves and goes, wow, that was awful, wasn't it? And then the next chapter is, so the next day I got up for school, and no, why are we not talking about that? We can't just leave it like that. That's, no. Or children dying, people going missing, so much death and horrific things, and no one's calling experts in. There's one chapter where one of the students in the school goes through an ordeal, and one panel just says something like, and then the school looked after him. And you're like, no, this would be global news. This would not just be, oh, we'll phone the parents and tell them that this horrific thing's happened. This seems like a phone call conversation. And some of the horror aspects are so over the top and insane, it's almost funny. It's more of a hysteria laugh than a laugh at just it being actually funny. If you know someone who has read it or you want to read it with someone, that's definitely the best way to consume this story, because I've been messaging my friend Emmy who's read it just with constant thoughts. And it's such a good book to just bounce back and talk about, because it's so bizarre. It's so weird. You're just, oh, okay. That being said, I'm still having a really good time with this. It's still not scary. I do think that this book probably won't be scary now that I'm this far into it. I have a feeling that this is more of an unsettling, disturbing read. It's not one that will genuinely be one of those things where you want to like turn the light off and then run to bed in case someone grabs your ankle type thing. It is more just a whoa. But I will say that Junji Ito has a way of making normal things really unsettling and disturbing. Ears ruined for me. Snails ruined for me. So many normal day-to-day things I will never look at the same. Praise be the spiral. I finished Uzumaki. This is a very unique book. Overall, I really enjoyed this. This is not at all what I thought it was going to be when I went into it. The ending is terrific. I was talking about earlier how the chapters are very episodic, and once the chapter's done, that's kind of that part of the story finished. However, the last quarter of the book is kind of an ongoing grand finale to this book, and it was terrific. The entire manga just builds and builds and builds, and then once you get to that last quarter with the finale, it's such an explosive ending, and it's exactly what the story needed. It worked so well in the most horrifying ways possible. My immediate knee-jerk reaction to this structure of being very episodic with the chapters was a bit hesitant, because I like something to be a grand story where it's all pulled together nicely, and this more broken up fragments of a larger story isn't normally my thing. However, it worked really well in Uzumaki, because once you got to the conclusion and you got this final arc of this end of this story, because you had all these little pieces beforehand, it makes the story feel really, really grand and like it covered a long period of time. And for a 700-page book, I flew through this. And I know it's different with manga because it doesn't take as long to read a page, but still, when it was 700 pages, I was a little worried that this would take me some time, but I absolutely flew through it. And with these mini stories, with each chapter, there was themes that carried through the entire story. These themes and ideas of obsession and love carried through in basically every single story. Be that love and obsession of a partner, of friends, of family, of a passion, forbidden love. It took shape in so many different ways, but it was undoubtedly a theme throughout the entire book. Really, Uzumaki is a love story. A love story of people, a love story of passion, and a love story of the spiral. Uzumaki has so much character as a book. It's such a unique tone and atmosphere. It feels like it should be jarring because it has these really horrific, disturbing moments, but equally there's some that are so bizarre and out there that they're kind of funny, and it feels like these just shouldn't work together, but they work together so well in this story. So I know earlier I was talking about how ridiculous some of it could be, but it worked. And I don't know how, but it worked really well. For pure entertainment value, this was amazing. This was absolutely fantastic. I do stand by my complaints about some of the situations really calling for more of a reaction than it created. That's the one big thing I would have liked to have been dealt with a wee bit differently. That being said, I didn't find it scary. As a book that's touted as the scariest manga of all time, I didn't think it was particularly scary. Disturbing, unsettling, horrifying, what other synonyms have we got? It's awful in so many ways, but in the best ways for this type of book. But I never found myself scared. However, when you read this, you will start looking at normal things differently, and you will start to see spirals everywhere. But that's a good thing. The glory of spirals should be shared. They should be brought attention to. For the glory of the spirals, the love of the spirals. Like I said, this is a love story. I would even put this in the horror category. This should be in romance, because this is all about the love of the spiral. And I implore you all to go out there and find more spirals, and to read this, to read about the glory of spirals.